transportation lead for Newcastle Hospitals, and very grateful to be here at today's Sustainable Supplier event, and really just to talk to you about our transport and travel theme. So long and short of it is, every supplier and every contract has a transport impact, and that can be through deliveries, how the staff are commuting, but also their product sources. So, mindful of the fact that road transport contributes 37% of our carbon emissions, 100% suppliers are needed to help us meet our goals for our clean air hospital and a zero net strategy. I've brought up this slide because what I really wanted to just touch on here is a key emission that's generated from transport: NOx, nitrous oxide. So it's the emission that's linked greatest to coughs, shortness of breath, causes of asthma, poor lung development, and there is evidence to suggest that NOx emissions absolutely contribute towards childhood effects in breathing, but also contribute towards shorter life expectancy. And as you can see from this image here that we got from Public Health England, road transport NOx emissions are higher than any of the other NOx emissions produced by manufacturing, industrial processes, residential, everything. So there's also high NOx emissions for non-road transport, but road transport is a massive creator of NOx emissions. What we're looking for here in terms of our primary objectives, from a transport perspective, is that by 2040, no emission-based vehicles will be allowed on our sites. That's only 16 years away. It's actually not that far. But suppliers can help now. They can help us immediately, not idling, minimizing the amount of travel that you're doing, driving transition to cleaner vehicles, but also collaborating, as you are today by attending this session. We're working towards an excellent clean air hospital framework, as my colleague Tunde has already discussed, and we will achieve excellent clean air partnerships, working with suppliers, neighbours, but also alongside regional NHS partners. So how can suppliers help us now? I mean, just some really quick tips on how suppliers can make a difference straight away. If you've got and not just delivery drivers or people working for you to drive, your own staff, you sitting here today, stop idling. When you're sat parked up, don't leave your engine running. Where speed limits are 10 mile an hour or whatever, all of that is reducing the amount of emissions. Slow that speed down, stick to speed limits. If you do have drivers in your organisation, invest in putting them onto driving courses, or even just online efficient driving tips, just to help people drive a bit more sensibly and reducing those emissions all the time. Our current contractor is making a difference now. They've already got electric fleet implemented and transition diesel vehicles out. Start to make plans about how you can reduce your own emissions as an organisation. Now, make it happen. Dead simple. I know that we're here today as suppliers. Many of you will be interested in obviously tendering for potential work with the Trust in future. And what I wanted to do with this slide is just give you an overview of what I would expect as a senior transport lead on any tender coming in where there are transport impacts and I'm consulted. And the kinds of things I'd be looking for are for you as organisations to have a strategic plan, a commitment to climate change, where you'll have proposed your goals, you'll have targets there. You'll have opened up issues where you know what you need to change. We're not expecting you to change overnight, but to have at least identified them. To have put forward some initial options about what you can change and you can do quite quickly. Carrying out that gap analysis to assess the change, performance targets can be met, set new steps when things aren't going right, and regularly review your strengths through a SWOT analysis and weaknesses. I would want to see that you've got that plan in place. I would want to see that you have a net zero strategy to reduce emissions and improve clean air. One of the things I'd also be looking at is actually the journey of your goods. So if you're supplying goods to the Trust in any way, shape or form, do the homework to document its production history, what materials have been used, where they came from, how that product or that good came to form, what its logistics history is. Has it been that parts of the goods have been on ships from the Far East, or you've got particular bits of plastics that might have come from America. What was the waste thing? Get that background on your products, because ultimately all of those goods equal a carbon journey and will contribute towards that journey. In terms of contractors who will be coming to work on this site in future, always worth considering when you're going to be bidding for any form of contract with us is, excuse me, what the form of that contract's going to be. So if it's a long contract where you're going to end up with staff based on site, you need to be thinking as part of your bid about how they're going to travel here. Do they need to travel here? Are they going to be transient? How deliveries arrive? All your operational impacts. If you're going to be supplying goods to the site, what kind of vehicles are you going to be using? Do you have trackers and training on them? Have you got driving at work, workplace policies? And your vehicle selection will be key. And on any form of logistics where you're moving stuff on our behalf, remembering you won't be on this site in a fossil fuel vehicle in 2040. Your infrastructure needs to be up to speed to allow you to make that transition. And we would want to see that you've got policies on active travel, how your staff are traveling on Great Fleet, and well-being and driving styles. And I suppose what I'm trying to do with this slide as well is to say, I've seen this down the years of people bidding for work, but overlooking things like how they're going to travel at work. It's almost an inbuilt expectation. Well, if we win the contract, we'll be able to drive and park there. That's not necessarily the case, and you need to be thinking about these things, which might result in additional costs for you that the trust won't meet at a later date. So what do we expect from you as suppliers? Well, at the moment, on tender specifications that we're receiving between 23 and 30, we're looking to see evidence that you're aware of that transition, that you've put in place key performance indicators to measure yourself and to prove that you are going down that road, but also to see evidence of your own company policies and how they're progressing and how they're evolving to tackle climate change. By 2030, 40, we would be looking for evidence that you've already started that transition. You're well embedded. It's actually an inbuilt facet of how you work. And we would want to see that you've made progress, 50% plus, excuse me, 50% plus of change implemented. Might be ambitious, but we have to be ambitious to achieve this target. You remain with key performance indicators, and you have established ethics within your organization that are all geared towards achieving net zero. And ways in which we're progressing in the meantime is we are amending our transport and EV strategies to suit. We are looking at alternative solutions. A perfect example is the last Green Mile. We're even looking at solutions where deliveries stop coming to our sites, that just get to an area close by, and the final deliveries are made sustainably. Excuse me. We're also looking at technology innovation. I know that our friends along at Northumbria are already trialling drones, but automated vehicles aren't far behind. These are the kind of things that you need to be looking at least for the next 10 years. Ultimately, keeping it short and punchy, we only have one Earth. We need to look after it. And at the moment, slow progress is better than no progress. Thank you.